At 6:07 on a Friday morning, your paycheck arrives. $3,800. For exactly 2 minutes, your checking balance looks comforting. Then, at 6:09, $700 disappears. There was no emergency. No late-night purchase. No market crash. You moved it on purpose. $300 went into an emergency reserve. $150 went into a fund for the expenses your family knows are coming but can never time perfectly. And $250 attacked the credit card charging you the most interest. Erin looks at the new balance and asks the question she has asked before. Why does payday never feel like payday anymore? It's a fair question. But those 2 minutes are the entire strategy. Repeated across 26 paychecks, that one sequence redirects $18,200 a year before your lifestyle gets a chance to claim it. The important question is not whether $700 should be your number. It's whether the order of those transfers can turn a family emergency 5 years from now into a temporary financial pause instead of a complete reset. Because eventually, this system will be tested. And when it is, 6 paychecks will disappear for real. You are not careless with money. That is what makes the situation so frustrating. You have a stable career. Your income is higher than it was 5 years ago. You don't collect luxury watches or book last-minute trips to Europe. Most of your spending is attached to something responsible. The mortgage provides a home. Insurance protects the family. Groceries feed 4 people. One child is in elementary school. The other is already in middle school, where every activity seems to require another fee, uniform, device, or weekend trip. Your mother is in her late 60s. She is still independent, but you have started helping with small things, a utility bill 1 month, a repair the next, a drive to an appointment when she does not feel comfortable going alone. None of these expenses feels reckless. Together, they leave almost no space between earning money and needing it. Your take-home pay is $3,800 every 2 weeks, or $98,800 across 26 paychecks. From each check, approximately $2,600 is already committed to the mortgage, utilities, insurance, childcare, subscriptions, minimum debt payments, and other recurring bills. That leaves $1,200. The usual financial advice might tell you to squeeze every possible dollar out of that amount. Cancel everything. Stop eating out. Never buy coffee. Treat every enjoyable purchase as evidence that you lack discipline. That approach can look impressive on paper and fail completely in a real household. So you protect $500 per paycheck for groceries beyond the fixed estimate, gas, family activities, occasional takeout, and the small choices that keep the plan from feeling like a permanent punishment. This is not uncontrolled spending. It is a boundary. The remaining $700 is moved before you can negotiate with yourself. That distinction matters because your problem is not one enormous purchase. It is that every available dollar keeps waiting for a new decision. Should you save it? Should you pay the card? Should you invest it? Should you keep it in checking because the car has been making a strange sound? When the money remains visible, every expense can make a convincing argument for it. The payday system removes that argument. The system is called the payday rollover rule. Its first principle is simple: money assigned to your future moves immediately after you get paid, not at the end of the month. At the end of the month, there is rarely anything left to move. The second principle is more important: when one financial obligation ends, its old payment is transferred to the next priority. It never quietly returns to your lifestyle. Here is what that looks like with your $3,800 paycheck. First, $2,600 remains available for committed bills. That amount already includes the $150 minimum payment on a credit card carrying a $9,600 balance. Second, $500 is protected for flexible household spending. Third, $300 moves into an emergency reserve. Fourth, $150 moves into a sinking fund for predictable but irregular costs, car repairs, school expenses, home maintenance, medical co-pays, and annual bills that do not arrive monthly. Finally, $250 goes to the highest interest credit card in addition to its $150 minimum payment. Every dollar has a destination. The total is exactly $3,800. If your employer offers a retirement match, that decision generally happens through payroll before the net paycheck reaches checking. Capturing a match can be valuable, but plan formulas and vesting rules vary. This payday sequence begins with the money that actually arrives in your bank account. It does not replace decisions inside an employer retirement plan. Why not invest the entire $700 immediately? Because your credit card is charging a hypothetical 20% annual percentage rate, and your emergency savings contains only $2,400. Investing while carrying expensive revolving debt and almost no cash buffer may produce a larger projected portfolio in a perfect spreadsheet. Real life is not a perfect spreadsheet. A tire fails. A child needs dental work. An insurance deductible appears. If there is no cash available, the expense goes back on the card, and the debt cycle begins again. So you build liquidity while attacking the highest cost debt. The card receives $400 every payday, the $150 minimum already included with your bills, plus the $250 extra payment. After 12 paychecks, you have moved an additional $3,600 into emergency savings. The reserve has grown from $2,400 to approximately $6,000. Your sinking fund has received $1,800, although some of it may already have been used for the expenses it was designed to absorb. Meanwhile, the credit card balance has fallen from $9,600 to roughly $5,500 under the 20% APR assumption. Nothing dramatic has happened. You did not discover a secret investment. You did not double your income. Your checking account still looks smaller than you would like on payday. But three quiet changes are happening underneath it. You have more cash between your family and the next emergency. Your most expensive balance is falling every 2 weeks. And fewer unexpected expenses need to become new debt. The visible balance looks less impressive. Your financial position is becoming stronger. Around the 27th paycheck, a little more than 1 year after the system began, you make the final credit card payment. Under this simplified example, you have paid approximately $10,654 in total, including about $1,054 in interest. The exact payoff date would depend on how the card calculates interest, when payments post, and whether any new charges are added. But the important moment is not the precise date. It is what you do next. The $250 extra payment has been part of your routine for more than a year. The $150 minimum payment has been sitting inside your committed bills. Together, the card had been consuming $400 from every paycheck. The balance is now zero. For one payday, you consider keeping that $400 in checking. The family has postponed a few purchases. The living room furniture is worn. Aaron has mentioned taking the kids somewhere during school break. There is nothing irresponsible about wanting those things. But if the old payment returns to everyday spending without a deliberate decision, your lifestyle will absorb it almost instantly. Within a few months, the extra $400 will feel normal, and reclaiming it will feel like a pay cut. So the payment rolls forward. The $400 that used to attack the card joins the $300 already going to emergency savings. Now the emergency fund receives $700 every paycheck. The separate $150 sinking fund contribution continues because irregular expenses do not stop simply because the credit card is gone. Approximately 11 paychecks later, around paycheck 38, your emergency savings reaches roughly $18,000. For the first time, the family has a meaningful cash barrier between an unexpected event and high-interest debt. This is the first visible proof that the system works. The card is gone. The reserve is funded. And the same $700 can now begin moving toward long-term investments. It feels like the hardest part is over. But that is only because you do not yet know what will happen in the 5th year. The system looks perfect when the safe money is sitting untouched. Its real value will appear only when that money has to be spent. Once the emergency fund reaches $18,000, the $700 payday transfer changes direction again. It now moves into diversified long-term investments. Not because every short-term risk has disappeared. The sinking fund is still handling irregular expenses, and the emergency reserve remains available for events that cannot be absorbed through normal cash flow. But the financial sequence has advanced. The credit card is gone. The cash barrier exists. Now time can begin doing more of the work. Every 2 weeks, $700 leaves checking and enters the investment account. Markets rise, fall, and sometimes appear to do nothing for months. You do not receive a clean reward after every contribution. Some paychecks are invested just before prices decline. Others arrive during a recovery. The system does not try to predict which payday will be the perfect one. It keeps buying on schedule because the plan depends on consistency, not forecasting. Then your income increases. It is not a life-changing raise, but it creates enough breathing room for the family to notice. Aaron wants to replace the living room furniture. The older child wants to join a travel sports program. Friends are discussing a resort trip during school break. And after years of watching money leave checking almost immediately, Aaron asks a reasonable question. Are we building a life, or are we just getting better at postponing one? The question lands because part of you agrees. You have done what responsible people are told to do. You paid off expensive debt, built cash reserves, and started investing consistently. Yet responsibility has not produced a feeling of abundance. It has produced a checking account that still looks ordinary. This is where quiet wealth becomes emotionally difficult. The progress is real, but most of it cannot be displayed without weakening it. The reserve looks like unused cash. The investment account looks like money you should not spend. The missing credit card payment does not appear as an exciting new possession. It appears as the absence of a bill. So you and Aaron make a rule together. The system will protect the $700 transfer, but it will not claim every raise, bonus, or unexpected dollar forever. A portion of future income increases can improve life today, provided that the core payday sequence survives. The goal is not to make the family feel deprived. It is to prevent every improvement in income from becoming a permanent increase in required spending. Because the real purpose of this system is not to create the largest possible account balance. It is to create the ability to pause. To leave a bad job without immediate panic. To absorb a repair without borrowing. To help someone you love without destabilizing everyone else. That sounds philosophical while life is going well. Then, during the 5th year, your phone rings. Your mother has experienced a health problem. She will recover, but she cannot manage the next several weeks alone. Suddenly, the question is no longer whether the family can afford new furniture. It is whether you can afford to stop working long enough to be present. There is no clean financial category for what happens next. You reduce your hours. Some weeks, you do not work at all. Appointments move. Recovery takes longer than expected. A temporary arrangement becomes nearly 3 months of disrupted income. Across that period, the household loses the equivalent of 6 take-home paychecks. That is $22,800 of income that never reaches checking. The number is large enough to make every previous transfer feel questionable. You and Erin sit at the kitchen table after the children are asleep. The same account that once represented progress is now being asked to cover groceries, the mortgage, insurance, transportation, and the ordinary bills that continue whether you are working or not. You stop the $700 investment transfer. Then you withdraw $9,600 from the emergency fund. The balance falls from $18,000 to $8,400. Watching it drop hurts more than you expected. For years, you treated that number as proof that the family was moving forward. Now using it feels like reversing direction. Erin sees your hesitation. "This is what we saved it for," she says. She is right. An emergency fund is not a museum exhibit. Its purpose is not to remain untouched forever. Its purpose is to prevent an unexpected event from forcing a worse decision. You do not need to place the mortgage on a credit card. You do not need to carry a new revolving balance at 20%. You do not need to sell long-term investments during a market decline. And you do not have to tell your mother that you cannot help because every dollar of income has already been promised to the next 30 days. The system does not remove the cost. You still lose income. You still feel tired. The family still postpones plans. Erin carries more of the daily routine while you divide your attention between 2 households. Quiet wealth has a human cost before it delivers a human benefit. For years, you accepted a smaller visible balance and fewer lifestyle upgrades. Now that sacrifice purchases something no account statement can fully measure. Time. When your mother can safely manage again, your work schedule returns. The first full paycheck feels like relief. But the $700 does not immediately return to investing. The rollover rule has one more condition: when the emergency reserve is used, rebuilding it becomes the next priority. For the following 14 paychecks, the transfer returns to cash. 13 full transfers add $9,100. On the 14th, $500 restores the reserve to its $18,000 target, while the remaining $200 moves to the sinking fund for upcoming family expenses. Only then does long-term investing resume. Across the full 8-year illustration, 150 paychecks ultimately send $700 into investments. That equals $105,000 in new contributions. Assuming a hypothetical 6% nominal annual return, compounded by pay period, those contributions could grow to approximately $129,158 by the end of year 8. The $42,000 already invested at the beginning could grow to approximately $67,838 under the same assumption. Together, the tracked investments reach roughly $196,996. Add the restored $18,000 emergency fund, and the tracked ending position is approximately $214,996, with the credit card balance at 0. That is not a guaranteed outcome. A 6% return is an illustration, not a promise. Actual markets could produce more, less, or a loss over the period. Taxes, fees, inflation, mortgage equity, employer plan contributions, and the changing balance of the sinking fund are not included. The important result is not the projected total. It is what did not happen during the crisis. The family did not restart the credit card cycle. One interruption did not erase 5 years of behavior. The investments were allowed to remain invested. And after the emergency passed, the system already knew what to do next. It did not avoid the shock. It stopped the shock from becoming a permanent financial reset. 8 years after the first transfer, another paycheck arrives at 6:07 on a Friday morning. At 6:09, your checking balance drops by $700. It still does not look wealthy. But now you understand what disappeared. That money became a paid-off credit card, time beside your mother, a restored emergency fund, and investment still working toward the future. Quiet wealth is not built by finding a new use for every freed dollar. It is built by preserving the direction of money that no longer has an old job. Your number may not be $700. Your sequence may be different. But every payday gives you the same decision: let today's lifestyle claim the margin, or assign it before the margin becomes invisible. Subscribe if you want practical systems that make money quieter and life more flexible. And in the next video, we will answer the question this system eventually creates: once your emergency fund is full, where should the next dollar actually go?